Once upon a time, there lived a girl in a city. She lived with her mother, and they had no father. Not far from their home, there was an old house. No one lived in it, but her mother always told the girl never to go near that house. But the girl did not listen to her mother, and one day she went to the old house and looked out the window. And she saw that there were many people there, and they all had black faces and red eyes. The girl got scared and ran away. But when she ran home, she saw that her mother also had a black face and red eyes.
"I told you not to go near that house,"
said the mother, grabbed the girl and took her to the old house. The girl also had a black face and red eyes. At night, she walked around the city and looked out the windows. Those who saw her began to get sick and die. One day, people gathered and burned the old house. When the house burned down, they found many human bones there. But this did not put an end to the horrors. Strange rustling sounds and screams began to be heard from under the ruins. The next morning, the girl and her mother had disappeared. A black hole remained where the house had been, from which a huge shadow rose at night. They said that these were the spirits of those who had once lived in this house, and that they were now looking for new victims. A few days passed, and life began to return to the city. But soon people noticed that fear had settled in them. Every evening, shadows with black faces and red eyes approached the windows. The old house burned down, but the curse lived on. Those who looked out the window could no longer return to their normal lives. They said that now dark entities inhabit every dark corner of the city. No one knew what really happened to the girl and her mother until one brave man decided to investigate. He decided to return to the site of the burnt house, armed with a flashlight and an iron rod. The night was dark, and the air was filled with fear. As he approached the black pit, his flashlight glowed, reflecting sparks of light on the blackened coals. Suddenly, he heard a soft whisper, as if someone was calling his name, and looked around. There were no people around, only shadows. Trying to ignore his fear, he leaned towards the pit, and suddenly a whirlwind of cold air burst out from there, making him shudder. He felt something invisible pulling him to the edge. At that moment, he realized that something very creepy was looking out of the pit. A silhouette of a girl rose from the darkness. She looked at him with her red eyes, full of sadness and horror. The girl held out her hand, as if luring the man to her. Behind her stood her mother, her face wrinkled and full of anger. The daredevil dropped the flashlight and tried to run, but fear engulfed him, as if darkness enveloped his body. He realized that he had become one of those victims that the dark entities were looking for. He tried to free himself with screams, but a dark curtain appeared on his face. His consciousness was fading, and in his last glance, he saw how the old house became whole again, and the girl and her mother were standing at the window, looking at the new captive. From that day on, people began to disappear in the city. Each new missing daredevil became part of this terrible legend, and the shadows filled the streets more and more. At night, when someone whispered about dark entities, the city froze, waiting for new victims. In a warm summer, children were playing hide and seek in one yard. When a driver was chosen, everyone else ran to hide. A girl named Audrey didn't know where to hide, but suddenly she saw a boy waving at her, "Here, here." His name was Kevin. Audrey thought that Kevin must have found a good place to hide, and she ran after him. The boy ran ahead, showing the way. At first, they ran into a narrow passage between two walls made of old, red brick. Audrey suddenly thought that she had never seen anything like it in her yard. Then they ran into an old house and ran down a long staircase into a dark basement. It was completely dark in the basement and very scary. But even then, Kevin did not stop and ran on. And although it was completely dark, Audrey saw him very well. She wanted to catch up with him and tell him that he shouldn't run any further. Otherwise, no one would ever find them. But no matter how fast she ran, she still couldn't catch up with the boy. Audrey got tired and stopped. And immediately Kevin, who was running ahead, disappeared.
Hey!
The girl shouted.
Stop.
She suddenly became scared. She looked around, but didn't see anything because it was completely dark. She started calling the boy again, but no one answered. Then the girl turned around and went back. She walked for a long time, but the stairs they had come down here were still gone. There was only darkness around. But then Audrey saw something glowing ahead. She was happy and went faster forward. Soon she realized that it was just a pale spot of light on the floor, as if the moon was shining through a round window. But there was no window and no moon. But here was the boy, the same one that brought the girl here.
Let's play.
The boy said. He was all black, darker than the surrounding darkness, so Audrey could see him very well.
Who are you?
The girl asked, frightened. The boy didn't answer.
I want to go home.
Audrey said and began to cry.
Please take me back.
Kevin shook his head.
You can't go there anymore.
He said.
They'll be scared and scream. And no one will want to play with you.
Why?
The girl asked. The boy didn't answer again and continued.
But now there are two of us and we can play here. It's always dark here and it's easy to hide. And then we'll call the other children and it'll be even more fun.
I don't want to play.
Audrey answered.
I want to go home.
We'll go there.
Kevin promised.
And you'll be able to look out the window of your house when everyone's asleep. And even if they suddenly woke up, they would see only darkness.
And then Audrey looked at her hands and realized that she had become as black as the boy. She felt a strong fear. After that, no one saw Audrey and Kevin again.